I'm going to ask Mick, Kirsten, and young Finn. Are you opening the? Looks like the next generation is opening the. Yep. Brilliant. Excellent. So we have the whole crew. So we want to, of course, start this session with the people, which is a key component of the success of this business. So yeah, over to you to introduce everybody.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 Pasture Summit. It's a privilege to gather here with farmers, researchers, industry leaders, innovators, and supporters who share a commitment to advancing the future of pasture farming. Resilient and sustainable farming is the backbone of our communities and our economy. Over the course of the day, we'll explore new research, practical innovations, and the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead of pasture-based agriculture. Events like this don't happen without a tremendous amount of dedication behind the scenes. Thank you to everyone who contributed today, and a special thanks to our wonderful farm team.
That's brilliant.
Thanks for coming.
Good morning. My name is Niall Gallagher. I'm 2IC here on Grasshopper Limited. I won't be as good a speaker to follow Finn. I will do my best. So yeah, we'll have our core team of 5 on the farm. So it's myself as 2IC. We've got Alex Diaz, our manager, who's been with the team for 10 years. So he's been around longer than the Grasshoppers company has been. If anything is broken, Alex can fix it, or if he can't, then it's time to replace it. Lizanja is a herd manager. He's been on the team for 2 years. Not only to work with, but just in general as a person. Lizanja is probably one of the nicest people I've ever met, and he's a wonderful person to work with. We've got Erin, herd manager also. She supports the Highlanders, but apart from that, she's a good girl. And then we've also got Roisin from Ireland, and yeah, she's been with us since March. So I suppose working for Mick and Kirsten and along with the team, it's just, I suppose there's a lot of like buzzwords around like team and effort and getting the, I suppose your team is the most important thing, and that's a big buzzword and you read about it all the time. But what does it look like practically on the farm? And I suppose that's what we're lucky here, that we've got like a wonderful team that works together. Everyone, like I think someone told me in a previous role that a team doesn't, when you're working on a good team, you're not working for the boss or you're not working for the job. You're working for the person that's working beside you, and they're working for you. And I suppose that's how our team operates day to day. We're always keen to teach anyone that wants to learn. And I've learned a lot, I suppose, about the way I do things. And I've learned a lot of things from the other character strengths on the team. And I hope they've learned something from me along the way. But yeah, and I suppose another thing is just the support and the thanks that we get from Mick and Kirsten and from the team. Just that we're recognised, after a day's graft, that it doesn't go unrecognised. But yeah, thank you all for coming, and welcome to our farm, and we hope you enjoy the day.
Hi, I'm Mick. A couple of other important people. Obviously, we're in an equity partnership here, so Blair and Liz, and Murray and Ruth. So lucky to be found each other and in a partnership with them. So a little bit about me. Grew up in South Canterbury on a small land holding. Father a civil engineer, mum's a nurse, and always had a bit of a tie to land. Growing up, I was going to be a truck driver, a shearer, or some type of farming. Was steered away from the shearing route from mum, and actually went and volunteered on a dairy farm for a couple of weeks, just sort of see what it was like. Growing up, I was actually in Fairlie, so few big stations there in Clayton Station, and the guy that runs that is 50 years old, so I was sort of thinking, probably not that fussed up about waiting that long to run something. So volunteered on the dairy farm, went and saw what it's all about, and thought, yep, that's for me. And I suppose I learnt about, obviously there was progression there. There wasn't going to be any sort of farm handed to me, so I had to sort of get off my backside and work and progress myself. And then we did a bit of an OE over 2010 and sort of come back to Terrace. I was talking to Gary McGregor, and Gaz said, we've got Terrace there for you if you're keen. So we sort of saw that as a massive opportunity, come back, manage that, and we knew this was the place that we could really sink our teeth into and grow. And I suppose it's just making sure that we're aligned with people that had the same philosophy as us around farming.
That's good, yeah, cool. Hello, I'm Kirsten. Grew up in Christchurch, I guess you'd say I'm a townie through and through. I ended up studying at University of Canterbury. I did a BA in sociology. Met Mick at the Mount Summers rugby club rooms back in 2007, and the rest is history. I had absolutely no clue about dairy farming, what it entailed. I remember asking Mick what he did with the cows at Christmas and New Year. While finishing my studies, I learnt to milk cows in the weekend on Terrace with Mick. We milked 1,100 cows through a 48-side herringbone, so we called that character building. I fell into banking, not where I thought my path would take me, and worked with a couple of different banks over about 6 years. Did not return to work after having my eldest son Flynn in 2014. Made the decision to immerse myself in our growing farming business. That's where Mick and I saw the value. So I play a support role to Mick when he steps away from the farm to do his dairy holdings role. We have two boys, as you met before, Flynn and Freddie, and they have a real love for farming, and I hope that they never lose it. Every weekend during calving, they're out helping us. It's so important for us that they see and get to enjoy what mum and dad do for a job and appreciate the lifestyle that dairy farming has given us and will continue to give our family. I guess our system allows us the flexibility to be present for our children, extended family and community.
Brilliant. I was wondering, all of the information you see in the boards here are in the handout. For some of you at the back, you may not be able to see. So I was wondering, Mick and Kirsty, we have here the graph of equity growth. They've been generous enough to share this information with us. So perhaps point out at key stages in this growth and what were the key, how did you survive this period, and those kind of character building things that happens along the way.
So absolutely, it was survival in this period here. But I guess we need to touch on the piece of work that happened probably 5 or 6 years before what we've got in our graph here. This is when you're laying. So this piece here is where there's a massive amount of unseen work that goes into your career, and that's the piece that often you become disheartened with because you feel like you're not going anywhere or doing anything, but it's really setting you up on a good trajectory for your future. So I guess farm manager, contract milking, lower order share milking. We had half our herd, Mick, is that correct? And then we decided $8.40, let's go and buy the other 500 cows. What came next? So $4.40, $3.90. So during this period, this is when our biggest lessons happened.
Yeah, and like payouts fluctuate all the time, and like for us it was something new, but for a lot of people who've been farming for a while it wasn't new. So we sort of just talked to people that've been farming for a while, and you know that they'd actually been through that. So there's always people that have been through a situation that you can gain knowledge from, and that's what we leaned on. People had a heap of support there around what we were heading, what we were doing. We probably didn't realise how average situation we were in because we're so focused on farming and getting out the other side. So unless the bank was going to sell us, we weren't stopping. So we just sort of knew we had to buckle down, cut costs where we could. Every time the payout dropped, we knew exactly what that meant. And I suppose making milk costs money, and that was probably the biggest lesson we got out of it. So was it marginal milk, or we were actually making money from producing another solid, or was it actually better to dry cows off early and not make the milk?
Did you ever thought about giving up at any point, particularly there? And if you did have that thought, how did you overcome that?
We never had that thought, but people told us we'd be better off managing and doing other bits and pieces. Professionals and stuff said, you'd actually be better off. Well, they were right. We'd be better off getting a wage. But no, for us, we were pretty still focused on and believed our farm system was the only system for us to ride it out, and that's really cemented our thought process moving forward as well to a low-cost system.
Guys, you can ask questions anytime. Just raise your hand and we'll hopefully get the mic to you quickly. So keep thinking on questions, thoughts you may have. So please bring them. You yell out if I don't see you. Keep an eye on that. Brilliant. Yep.
And even this line here is probably not even right. It probably felt more like it was going down below that line. So it was fairly average. But we did have actually quite a bit of cash that we had stored away, and that just immediately got chucked into that straight away. So we hadn't spent, had a heap of cash stored away, so we hadn't spent. So I suppose just we're always trying to save for the next lot of cows, so we were able to biff that in there.
I was just going to say a few disciplines that sort of really were hammered home to us during that period of time was, it sounds cheesy, but just a personal budget and understanding where you're spending every dollar. Sometimes it might look like a food diary, but it's really important just to be aware of those 10s, 20s, small amounts. It also really helped us hone our system and understand where the dollar was best spent for us. And then, yes, again, this opportunity and the orange come off the back of really understanding our system, our numbers, and having confidence in our system.
Perfect. Any questions on this story so far? Yep, we'll keep rolling. So perhaps next, just digging a little bit more into the actual system and what you are achieving here. And here we have a map of the farm that we are on and a bit of information about it. So maybe going into a bit of the story, or when did you come into this farm? Why did you purchase this particular farm, and some points on that?
Okay, so purchased May 2023 in partnership. So 280 hectares, 260 effective, and that's made up of 160 under pivot, 70 Rotorana, 23 K-line, and 7 fixed grid. So all of our cows are wintered off farm at the neighbour's property across the road, Tom Chamberlain, on fodder beet and kale, and that's where all of our young stock are grazed as well.
Just probably not pointing out on some of the numbers we have here. Hectares, cows, stocking rate, production, and then just perhaps this is our 3 seasons. So the first year, 23-24, is the first year on the farm. So we did a little bit of adjusting of the numbers to make sure that was as accurate as possible the situation. But there's a small correction on winter feed on that first year. So pasture harvested, which is one of the key KPIs for this farm, has been increasing from 15.7 on year one, 16.9 on last season, and then the budget for this year is to stay roughly at the same level. And we're gonna discuss on session 2 a bit of what is the potential of the farm and what are the more detailed management that they do on the farm to achieve results and where the farm could go if there is any potential there. Yeah, maybe some other details on the farm on irrigation and those other things. Yeah.
I guess why we purchase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so location, family, and I guess our network, our children were happy at school in Dunsandel, so that was always in the back of our minds when making future decisions. The water, cheap and reliable. Scale, 1,000 cows to us drives efficiency, and that allows Mick the opportunity to step away from his dairy holdings job. The infrastructure, so it was a well set up farm, good level of housing and infrastructure, sheds, we've got everything we need here. And the numbers worked, so we knew we could come in here and nail a $4.50 cost structure when completing budgets. So.
Keep opening up for questions. So. Maybe just an overview of the farm systems, and then we'll go a little bit into the financials, but some of the high-level things you do around supplements, nitrogen, winter, young stock, and you mentioned some of those things at high level, and then we'll go into more detail in the paddock.
So, so I suppose simply it's just around pasture. I suppose my main role is farm walks. It's probably the main job I do is the farm walk once a week, sometimes every 4 days. But that's probably my main role, just doing the farm walk, following the spring rotation, planning through the spring, and we have an order management plan that runs through the back end of the season. All our feed decisions around feeding a wedge, not a cow. So if we're in a surplus or a deficit, making decisions to make sure we stay on track around our average pasture cover. So I suppose we're probably about 100 kilos a cow, I think, of bought-in feed. Sometimes a little bit less. There's a bit of straw chucked in there as well that's being tied up, but probably 50, 60 kilos a cow of feed has been bought in over the last couple of years. Yeah, nothing this year, 10 bales this year came in.
Brilliant. So maybe we go into keep thinking about questions or what things you may want to explore more. That's why you are here. If we look at the financials, and I may just quickly go over this, we have the farm here. You have this in your handout. We use a database, the benchmarking for Mid Canterbury as a comparison, just to have a reference. Keep in mind that this was the first season on the farm, so we did our best, and Alex Perrott, the area manager for this area, did all of the donkey work on tidying things up. So we make sure we included all the costs, but it's a first season, so it's never like when you're more established. Then we have 24, 25, and what is the budget for this year. Probably the things to point out is the operating expenses per kg of milk solids, which is significantly lower than the average for Mid Canterbury. And just keeping in mind that this benchmarking group is probably quite at the top end of the spectrum. Usually, what we have in this benchmarking is kind of very good operators already. So, but the cost of production is significantly lower. Just if I go into, sometimes I do get challenged by Al. He says, so talking about cash cost, we have to be careful about that when it is comparison or benchmarking. But if we want to understand the actual cash cost for this farm, there is only adjustment of depreciation. or 44 cents, which is quite similar to the average for the area, so there is not a significant non-cash adjustment on the cost. So basically, with a production similar to the, particularly this year, similar to the average, really the result comes, it's not much on in terms of income per kilo of milk solids. Really the difference comes into this area of cost of production. So again, please keep thinking. Then if we go into this graph here, this is a little bit of a comparison of the different group cost with the average, and really some of them are quite similar to the average, but what is really stands out is the supplement and grazing. And when we look at the actual winter grazing, there is not much of a difference comparing to the benchmarking. So really the difference, or most significant difference there, is the supplement component comparing to the average. So some of the other costs, there is small differences, overs and unders, but not the bigger one. Another thing to point out from the numbers point of view is a lower cost of animal health and breeding comparing to the average as well. But by far the difference is on the supplements. So I don't know if there is anything I missed on explaining the numbers. Just we kind of clear what we have in front of us. But yeah.
Yeah, I suppose the labour component, all staff are paid an hourly rate, so everyone is on an hourly rate, so everyone gets paid for what they work, and we think that also drives some efficiency on farm as well. So people obviously get paid for what they do. Animal health is just around no sort of veterinary or veterinary intervention, but we use obviously once a day tail paints. We don't have any collars or anything like that here, so just eyes and training our people. Our staff are really awesome around early interventions and calving, so Noel's generally pretty close to when it's calved and take membranes and sort it out real quickly. So just real simple farming practices. I think the wee bit of difference there, obviously you touched on. Winter grazing is probably the same as everyone else, but maybe a little bit more. Supplement down, and then we've got obviously about 150 units of N applied here, so a little bit of a change here, and obviously irrigation costs here, low 50 metre bores, so it makes a massive difference to your cost. There's no fixed cost of irrigation for us here.
Yeah, and just perhaps pointing to the last graph here on the board, and again, remember you have them in your handout. This is just showing the correlation between operating profit and cost of production year on year. Every time we do this analysis, there is always one of the strongest correlation to profit, how much we are spending to produce every kilo of milk solids, and this is where Mick and Kirsty are placed in the graph. Then there is another graph on your handout that will be touched on in session 2, which is around pasture and crop harvested and the correlation with profit, which is also quite high. But I just also wanted to point out that when you correlate imported supplements and profit, there is no correlation. Some people do manage to get very good results with it, but it's no correlation. It's not a significant driver for profit, the amount of supplement that you bring into the farm. And you can see that on this farm, which is very profitable, and they are at the quite low end of imported feed on the farm. All right, so this is a bit of the story and the information. So now, yes, it's your time for asking questions, reflecting, and digging a bit more into how they achieve the results that they achieve. So, Steph?
Hey, thanks for having us. Can you just talk a wee bit about your milk calf rates, and we've only got 1 year of that, obviously you're at 16%. Is that being typical for your farm? And what's your plan? And are you trying to rear more replacements for that, or what's your strategy for dealing with that year rate? And does your not feeding supplement play into that, do you think?
Yeah, I suppose I'll probably cover this potentially in the next stage as well, but that's cool. I suppose we put a herd together here. When we first came here, 2 herds got put together. So I suppose with that, we were going to have especially a few cows that don't suit our system, I suppose. So, and I suppose we've just been working on the fact that some cows won't fit the system, but I suppose we might not use intervention, but obviously once a day, body condition score for cows is really important to us. We actually have a strong focus on FERT BV is what we've been breeding for the next piece, because we do believe the fertility needs to be better. If we can lift the fertility, we can drop our numbers red as well. So there's definitely, we're not comfortable where it sits. We're definitely not going to rear extra animals to do that. We don't believe, like, we're pasture, high ME, 13 ME pasture is a great source of feed, so we still keep trucking on it, feeding cows grass. But it's really important around the body condition score, having the right pasture covers. When we say we don't put a lot of feed in, we feed a wedge. So if we don't have feed, we'll match the feed to put into the wedge to get our average pasture cover up. So there is a focus on it, but it's just part of our system when we first put this here together. We believe in the future with our EV lifting that we'll get there.
This isn't the question, but just amazing. Your total operating expenses is like a step back in time. I don't know, most people would have been scratching to do that 5 or 6 years ago, so shout out there. And the milk per hectare for the pasture harvest is an amazing number too. The question now, what do the farms that you supervise, the dairy holdings, what do they need to do to be closer to what you guys are doing here? Because the system looks quite familiar.
Yeah, I might have heard that before actually. I think it's just that, just a real clear attention to detail. It's the little bits that I know when the season gets away will be within 2 or 3 days. Like, it's that attention to detail, finger on the pulse. I know last year was the start of November, we were on a quicker round for about 4 days too long, and it put us into a massive deficit. We'd cut 50 hectares of farm for silage in the spring, and pretty much most of that, about 160, 70 bales got fed back out. So it's just those tiny little times in the season that you miss the boat. Like this week, in the last 4 days, we've been growing 100 plus. So if you're waiting for 10 days to do your farm walk, and then your average cover 21, it's just gone past you. It's just the tiny little details and being across what's happening on farm on a daily basis.
Other than supplement, labour's the biggest difference between yourselves and the mid-Canterbury average. Could you just elaborate on how you drive that efficiency, or what elements of the system allow you to be so much more, so much cheaper with your labour expenses?
I think it's just obviously the farm system, like it's milking cows, setting brake fences. The farm system is that, that's all it is. There's not a whole heap of extra stuff to do on farms. So, we want our guys to have a life outside of the farm gate as well. So it's just getting the cow's milk, set up a brake, stick to a round length. It's just sounds pretty silly, but that's exactly what it is, because we've been in different systems before, and you're flat out feeding through spring, and there's no feeding out. It's just set a brake, stick to spring rotation planner. But that's where a lot of the work comes from, is that feed part. So without doing a heap of that, we're saving a lot of time in there, I think. Yeah, rosters are 5-2. 5-2 and flexibility is probably the big one. 5-2, if you get every Saturday, Sunday off, and I have to have Tuesday, Wednesday, it's probably not ideal. So, but actually, to be fair, some people don't mind the odd Tuesday, Wednesday, so they can go do stuff in town. But 5-2 roster all year, that doesn't miss a beat. I just fill gaps in, so if the farm team need me to do draft cows or milk cows or put a fence up, I do that. But 5-2 roster, probably averaging 50 hours in the springtime, 55. Yeah, so not massive, but it's just that whole team piece, everyone's working together, you know, it's not, oh, no one's still going, I'll jump in and give them a hand, so everyone's just trying to get everyone home earlier, really, and safely.
Coming.
Hey, thanks guys, it's been really impressive. Just a quick question, given your philosophy and focus on grass, and my question is around the nitrate use. You're using 150 to 160, so potentially you're leaving grass out there. What's your philosophy around your use of N within the system?
Yep, I suppose whenever I'm milking, I'm thinking of these sorts of things, Tony, so potentially we are, but if you believe that the 190 is the number, it's probably coming back from that. So that's probably where we think we can farm comfortably at the moment. Yep, we're potentially leaving a bit on the table. On our effluent block, we actually apply about 100 units of N, so a little bit less, and pasture performance is a little bit better than the rest of the farm, but obviously it's getting the effluent nitrogen as well. So we're comfortable that we're not leaving too much on the table. So I think we believe that the number will be 150, or somewhere around there potentially in the future. So I suppose we just want to be able to farm to that at the moment.
Just to add a comment, we have the pleasure of having Mick as part of one of the partner farms for the Heinz and Selwyn project that we ran here for 5 years. That was with the other farm, that's why we didn't bring the information, but on that project we're really looking to all of the opportunities to reduce in loss to water, which was the challenge we were trying to address in a way that we were not affecting profit. So Mick did, or was a bit of the exemplar on really looking at in use efficiency and really adding in when it was needed and when it was going to get the response. So it's a lot of thought into that in strategy as well. So yeah, it's a very well thought through plan. But yeah, very valid point, Tony, because we do know in to grow grass. Okay, we are a bit slow with questions. Okay, we have 2 now, so let's go there first. I know the first session is the harder one because everybody's still thinking and yeah.
Firstly, impressive operation, guys, and thank you for sharing. The details and the numbers. Obviously, always scary to get out there and do that, so I appreciate that. Could you just talk a bit about your autumn management plan, culling, and so one of the things I've been thinking about in my business is stocking rate and the cost of wintering cows and getting them pregnant and all of that versus then culling them in February when they've probably broken even, but actually, you've still got that autumn.
Yep, I suppose that is our only way we can push feed in front of us, so is to reduce that stocking rate. So I suppose pre-testing the cows, find out doubtfuls in about 9th of Jan. We find out empty cows sort of February, and then from March all our cows are gone. So culling really, really early just to push feed in front to set ourselves up for the end of the season. So so that is exactly what we do here, is just culling early. One, there's space, so it's really simple to cull cows at that time of year. Generally get paid a little bit more because other people aren't culling. And then we're just able to, that's how we manage the back end of the season with feed.
Is it going to a question? Brilliant. That's what we like. Your questions?
Just want to ask about milking routines, like any 16 hour or once a day when time of the years?
Yep, so we once a day, just sort of at the start of the season till probably, I don't know, 300 or 400 cows a calf. That niggly bit when there's not enough to have a bit of a routine. So once a day, then everything's into twice a day throughout the whole season. Don't do any 16-hour, once a day, just as, maybe for a week or something as we dry some cows off. Generally just drying cows off is what we do. We do have a once a day herd run throughout the whole year. So we do have, might be 70 cows at the moment on once a day, and they're just rotated through. So if we see a cow a bit light or struggling a little bit, we'll put them in the once a day herd. So we do actively manage a once a day herd all season, and any sort of cows around, later calvers on once a day as well, either leading into mating. So no sort of milking time, but just the standard stuff. But if the cow's not in good condition, we'll dry off her early in, say, March to get her ready for the next season.
Hey, Mick, you say you train your people. How do you do that? Because it's easy to say, but what do you actually do? Is it you doing it? Are you sending them to courses? How do you get them around this AI, pulling out cows to go into that once a day herd? Who's making those decisions? That's
Yep. So I suppose training the people, so spending time with them. I suppose when I was first starting out on the farm, and I remember treating my first cow and thinking I'm a vet. So that time that you spend with your people is really valuable. And my thought is that if I spend 2 hours showing someone, that means 2 hours I don't have to be there, and they can get on with the job and do it themselves, and probably do it better than me too, to be fair. So just, I suppose, training our guys, everyone, what's expected, but also having a really, I suppose, open and learning environment. If you don't know something, ask the question so we can show you how to do it. We've got people that turn up and can't bag, haven't never bagged a cow, milked cows for a period of time, but everyone can learn new tricks. So just spending a bit of time with training our people, and then our top guys and train anyone new coming in as well. So spend a bit of a buddy session with people, and just until they feel comfortable to be up and running by themselves.
Mick Kirsten, can you expand or just to go through your goals? What are your personal goals for yourselves, and what are you aiming to achieve on the farm operationally and with your staff? Why do you do what you do?
Thanks, Al. So you'll see our visions or our values, but Mick and I did a piece with DairyNZ. We did a full farm assessment about 3 years ago, and from that we took away some real gems, and we come up with four family values really: family time, achievement, integrity and loyalty, and economic security. So from that moment, we knew any decision we were making around our family, our business, our friends, was that decision going to take us closer to our family values or further away? So that's sort of the personal piece, but I guess we've got sort of, I don't know if you want me to touch on them, but we've got our business objectives and then our farming philosophies, and we feel like by using our family values, we're able to make really clear decisions around our objectives and our philosophies.
Do you want the farming philosophies? Yeah. So I suppose it's just a simple system. We can never we'll never be able to control milk price, but we control costs. So that's one thing for us, is we can control costs. The less things we have in our system, the easier it is to get them right. So if we start putting a whole lot of other things in the system, it's really hard to control cost on that, and then some of them are loaded into the future, so you can't get them out. I suppose it's just being able to be repeated. That's really important to us. So it's so simple that it can be repeated simply. I'm not here every day as well, so our goal is to have multiple farms. So for us to be able to do that, it needs to be really, really simple. So if we've got lots of decisions to be made for our people, it won't be as enjoyable for them, but it's hard to replicate those systems as well. And I suppose the other bit is we need to focus, what's already been touched on, is just our 6-week calf rate's not good enough. That needs to be, we need to be up and around this, 80s to maximise the most amount of pasture growing as well. So that are a key sort of focus for us, is improving pasture growing on farm, but also improving our 6-week calf rate.
Mick Kirsten, oh sorry, I'm over here, Virginia.
Yeah, there was a question at the back as well, but you go and
Jump in front. So we're already talking about a pretty exceptional cost structure, but you're talking about all these things that you potentially have to improve on. Do you have a goal or objective of where that could get to? Around your cost of production, because you've talked about, for example, replacement rate, 6-week calf rate. Do you have a target around that?
No, I think we sort of, around $4.50 is probably where we see it. I suppose it's just a piece around a bit of ag inflation, isn't it? That there's a lot of stuff we think we can control, but we can't always control it. So I suppose we feel comfortable that we can maintain, is probably the word, that cost structure, but starting to get lower than that's probably, obviously if we can get our 6-week calf rate, and a few things have to line up, yeah, definitely. And it's probably been a little bit smarter around winter grazing, maybe having some animals on farm or heifers back earlier, just eating a bit of that pasture growing on farm as well over winter. There's definitely a few wee things we can definitely look at. And I suppose that's what's been the great thing about doing this and being asked to be up here, is around, makes you ask yourself a whole heap of questions of why do you do stuff. So that's what we've really enjoyed out of this process so far.
question at the back there. Thanks, Cam.
Thanks, guys. Look, great story. One of your clearly standout KPIs there is around your pasture crop harvested, well above the region average, and looking at your cost structure there, you're growing what many of us here are probably buying in terms of feed. Interested in sort of delving into that a bit more. You talked about your pasture management. I'm just interested in your view around, I guess, the system, the farm system you're building. What are the critical factors that go into that pasture and crop harvested number in terms of stocking rate, pasture, species, whether you're using a mower or not, just sort of how you build that farm system to achieve that number?
Yeah, I suppose that farm system's been around forever and we've just carried on doing it. The piece is the only time we don't own a mower or a lawnmower, and I did feel a little bit bad. I made a little triangle out there the other day that didn't get eaten. So, but no, if it goes for a mower, it gets put in a bale. We hit residual. We might take a break out of a paddock, and that's if it's stepped over too long, it's straight into a bale. So nothing, no pre-mowing, pre-topping. Just have really stringent average pasture covers that we must hit at the end of the season and the start of the season that we need to be non-negotiable. So it's not around cow milking days anymore. It's around setting ourselves up for the end of the season. So just following I suppose just measuring the pasture and knowing exactly what's happening and making decisions with what we see in front of us. So the longer you farm, the smarter you think you are. So probably it's just been around, look, we're growing 80, it demands 60, let's make a decision with today, not what we think might happen. So just playing what we see in front of us, probably one of the big things for us as well.
And we will go in more detail on the pasture and cows and grass on session 2 as well, because it's quite a lot to unpick in there. It's not just by chance that happens. So just getting to the final minutes, so please think about the questions. But just one thing I wanted to bring to you. I mean, we are in a very good milk price year, even that there has been a few corrections, but let's hope it stays that way. So from your philosophy of cost control, probably that's not going to be like a temptation for you or a change in system or anything, but how would you do that thinking process of now every kilo of milk is worth more? So how do you stick to your system? And maybe it's more about thinking of advice or ways of thinking for other people, because potentially you're not going to change what you do, but how do we deal with the temptation of potentially making more when we have very good milk prices?
Yeah, I think we were actually probably reasonably surprised how well the farm performed in this current, last year's payout. If you look up here or look across here, you can see what we do is actually the right decision for us. So we're actually probably taking a bit from that high payout, that actually it is the right system for us. And like, it's just that piece around when you've been through a downturn, you know it's going to come. It's like a rubber band, it will come. We can't control the payout, but we can control our costs. And in a $8 payout, that's all fine for us. Keep rolling along, keep ticking along. So, and that's what we're comfortable with. We really enjoy farming. We want to stay farming, and we want it to be simple. So, I think that we probably got a bit of insight into how good our system actually performs in a higher payout as well, and obviously robust in a low. So, yes.
Now that you make that comment, when we were going to put up that season, the 24-25 season, and when I, at the payout, I thought that you probably your star wasn't going to be at the top of that group, and it is. So we tell us, and then people do talk about dilution of cost, and when milk prices go, that looks like a very good idea, but sometimes that doesn't translate into profit. So it's a very, very good lesson there. Right, question here, brilliant.
You've talked about your fertility and how that's a focus. And you're talking about doing it through just breeding. Have you not been tempted to look at technologies and stuff that will potentially lift your 6-week calf rate and maybe making cows at the right time versus relying on tail paint? I guess some of the questions is that one person looking at your tail paint or you're sharing it among all the staff. I see you do 6 and 4, 10 weeks. Do you use short gestation, or have you been tempted to go longer to try and pick up that empty rate so you can get your breeding up quicker? Or, what's your mating philosophy with, I guess, mating certain BW cows or whatever?
I'm comfortable we'll get there doing what we're doing. Technology is probably our next step. It's just probably that fixed costs that probably we don't really like. And I don't know, we sort of lose a bit of skill set, or probably maybe a little bit old-fashioned. But yeah, just our guys picking tail paint's been done for many, many years, and we've actually, maybe not a good example of it, but maybe it gets better because I've stepped away more. So, but we've got farms that solely use tail paint and eyes, and they're 80+%. So it definitely can be done. I think there's probably a little bit of patience here for us that we're on the right track and back what we do. But at the moment, we're comfortable that we're on the right track, because I know I'm not the only one that does it, and there's some guys getting some fantastic results doing very similar to what we do. So I think we're comfortable that we'll get there.
Brilliant. So we're getting towards the end of the. That's perfect question. Last question, maybe. Yep.
Sorry, just to backtrack to that equity growth over time. Just picking up, Mick, you had roughly a 5-year managing career before that chart starts. Can you just touch on your savings habits and how they've developed over time?
Yeah, there was, I suppose, like before we started at Terrace, there probably wasn't a lot, to be fair. It was, we'd saved a little bit of money, but not a lot really. It wasn't until really when we come back to Terrace that we thought, shit, we need to get serious about what we're doing, and that's when the real savings started. So definitely not the way to do it. It definitely should have been put some away, but I hadn't been at the start putting a lot away anyway. So we did have some young stock, and that was probably a good move that we had some young stock from Gaz as part of our salary, so we're able to use them as equity to get ourselves going. So, but I think the other thing is it doesn't actually cost a lot to start a contract milking roll either, so you can sort of put some kit and some stuff together reasonably cheaply. Even here today, I've got a 4,000 or 5,000, some farm bikes and a rocks tractor, and that's our kit for 1,000 cows. So doesn't, our system don't have a lot of gear, so that's another great piece of it as well. And REM's pretty easy to look after.
Brilliant. So just probably a couple of final comments on this session from me. Al, have a question?
Quickly now, we're getting into the last.
Sorry, last question for me. Just, can you just, we haven't gone anywhere on it, but in terms of your financial management, you know your numbers very well. How do you keep track? How often do you look at your financials? How does that process work? Because I know a lot of people, it's probably they have someone else do it.
Every month. That's on me. So every Monday I sit in the office and review and check sort of what we're budgeted to spend and what we have actually spent. And before Fonterra pay us, I know exactly what we're paying back in principle. So, and we're ready to send an email off to our bank manager just to square that away, because that's really important to us, a really clear focus. So, every month there's no, finger in the wind, or we'll do it in 3 months. We need to know each month where our money has gone.
Very good point, Alistair. And when we were preparing for this day, it was a breeze working with them, because they have the numbers at their fingertips. They do know what makes a difference in their business. So, very, very important to get right, as important as the cows and the grass, I guess. Just before we move into the next session now, when we're gonna drill more into the cows and grass, just probably the key point for me is what we see here, and probably for the young people in the audience here, it's amazing what you can achieve if you make the right decisions, if you're quite clear in where you want to go, clear on your farming philosophies, and you stick to them and you do them very, very well. Which hopefully that's what you got from this first session, is absolutely to the system they chose to run, absolutely mastering the results they get from it. And probably another key element here is the team in this bright color we have here, not only the future there, but the team that works on the farm. I guess you could appreciate how important they are for achieving the results, and the time that Mick and Kirsten put into that to make sure that they do the best, because at the end of the day, it's for the benefit of the farm. Right on time, maybe 1 minute over. So we're gonna walk now to the paddock. Mick, maybe you give a couple of instructions on the stop on the way.
Yep. So we're gonna, I think, flick out through the back gate of the shed here, cut down through the track. We're going to go into paddock 31, which we've got a pasture cover there. I think it's 2,800. We cut a bit of soil out, so you can see a bit of soil profile there, and then head back across to the stage, and then there's another couple of pasture scores of 1,500 and a 3,100 cover. So there's some covers there. We'll see some cows and hopefully fill in any gaps we've missed. But I suppose this bit's good for us. So heaps of questions are good for us to question why we do stuff. So don't be afraid to hit us up about why we do stuff if you don't want to ask now. But more than happy to chat. No, that gate there.
And he just informed me that we do have rain coming. We're only going to be there for a session, so still we okay for that? We have the boards and everything in there?
Yes, we are. Let's go.